and welcome back to Lady Jane Books. Today I'm doing my April wrap-up and May TBR. April was a funny month. I thought I was going to get a lot more reading done, and I didn't. It was a little bit tough there in the middle, so I did not get as much reading as I would have liked done, but I did read some very quality books. And it is the perfect day here to discuss these books. It's rainy and it's green because everything's blooming now, and I'm hearing the soft patter of the rain behind me on these large windows. So I think this is the best atmosphere to just sit, cuddle up, drink some tea, and talk about some books with you, dear viewer. So let's get started. The first book that I finished in April of 2021 was I'm Thinking of Ending Things by Ian Reid. I'm Thinking of Ending Things by Ian Reid is a psychological thriller. It depicts a relationship between our protagonist and her boyfriend. Now, our protagonist is thinking of ending the relationship. However, when they go to visit his parents, things take quite the turn. This was a very strange book, in my opinion. It kind of lulls you into this false sense of security because the first half is very intellectual based. The two characters have these really deep conversations about life and love and relationships and all these really big topics, and it's very intellectually based. And so you kind of get lulled into this false sense of security thinking, well, how is this a horror book? This is just kind of like a really big discussion. And then it just smacks you in the face with the horror. And I didn't know what was happening. A few instances of the imagery were quite disturbing, and I wasn't expecting it all of a sudden, and it just kind of just takes a turn and you don't know where you're going, and I think that's the point of the book. For me, some of it was a little bit confusing. I think I may have just missed a couple of points that I was supposed to get out of this. Some people have said that I'm Thinking of Ending Things by Ian Reid is one of those books that you should sit and read all at one point and just kind of devour it all in one sitting. And I didn't do that. I read a couple pages here and there, and I expanded it over a couple of days. So maybe I missed some of the nuances in the story, but even so, I really enjoyed this book. I rated I'm Thinking of Ending Things by Ian Reid 4 out of 5 stars. The next two books that I read in April are actually part of the same series. I read Murder in an English Village by Jessica Ellicott. I mentioned a few times in April that I was really in the mood for a cozy murder mystery type of story. I was really interested in watching Marple and reading like Hercule Poirot type of series, and I was just looking for that type of really cozy mystery. So in my travels, I found this Beryl and Edwina series, and this totally lived up to what I was hoping it to be. Beryl and Edwina is a series which these two women, one who is English and one who is an American, team up together to solve mysteries and crimes in the post-war era. I love the interactions between the two main characters. They're so witty, they have such a highbrow humor, and it's just wonderful to see how they're working together to solve these mysteries by keeping that banter alive too. I absolutely loved it, and I enjoyed the first installment so much that I continued on with the series with Murder Flies the Coop, also by Jessica Ellicott. Both of these were so much fun to read. I don't want to give too much away about what happens in each series, but they're just a barrel of laughs. They're a lot of fun. I really liked how cozy the mysteries were, but they also had a slight degree of complexity. So I couldn't guess the ending in many cases, which I really appreciate in a novel. So I really enjoyed the Beryl and Edwina series by Jessica Ellicott. I rated both Murder in an English Village and Murder Flies the Coop, 3 out of 5 stars. And the final book that I am still reading, I'm about 80% done right now, is The Atlanta Incursion by Matthew W. Quinn. This is the sequel to The Thing in the Woods by Matthew W. Quinn. I previously read The Thing in the Woods and I did an author requested review. I'm going to link my video in the description if you're interested in watching it. I'm not going to say too much about what happens, so if you want to know more about my thoughts on The Atlanta Incursion and my rating for it, you're going to have to stay tuned for my full review coming soon. So overall, I read some really great books in April, and now I wanted to talk about the books I'll be reading in May. Now the first book that I have on my TBR for May of 2021 is no surprise if you are a returning viewer. The Butterfly Garden by Dot Hutchinson has been on my TBR for about 3 months now, but I promise I want to get to it. I think it's going to be really good, really creepy, and I really just want to bring myself to read this at some point. For those who are new, The Butterfly Garden by Dot Hutchinson is a mystery story in which a man is abducting girls and keeping them. Hence, he refers to them as his butterfly collection. I've heard it's very disturbing and very creepy, and I know I've put it on my TBR for the last 2 months, but I'm really thinking May is going to be the time to shine for this one. So I'm really excited to read The Butterfly Garden by Dot Hutchinson. So now we'll add in some more newer books on Jane's list. The second book that I hope to read in May of 2021 is Judging Books by Shay Savage. Now, if you are an avid Lady Jane fan, you know that Lady Jane really likes her bad boy books. She does. It's a guilty pleasure. What can I say? And so Judging Books by Shay Savage is a romance between a bad boy biker dude and like this good girl. And I don't know too much else about it. I really want to kind of keep it open for me. But I love Shay Savage's writing. I love her books. Her book Transcendence was one of my all-time favorites. But she can write some spicy, spicy scenes. So I'm going to read it. So I'm really looking forward to reading Judging Books by Shay Savage this May. The next book I'm hoping to get to in May is Pretty Girls by Karen Slaughter. I have heard so many great things about this book, and I've seen it everywhere on BookTube. Karen Slaughter, I believe, writes in a way that's very brutal. Like, she writes some really brutal scenes, but I've heard that her storytelling is really brilliant. So I'm excited to see how this story unfolds. I believe that Pretty Girls by Karen Slaughter is a story where a girl is abducted or murdered, and her family is trying to either recover from that or find her. I'm not really sure, but I do believe it's about a family drama surrounding some type of trauma or loss of a girl. So it sounds really intense. I've heard that it is kind of scary in some cases, like very emotionally scary. So I'm hoping that I'm prepared for it. But overall, I'm really looking forward to reading Pretty Girls by Karen Slaughter. And the final book that I hope to read in May is The Tenant at Wildfell Hall by Anne Bronte. Now, surprising news, but Lady Jane Books really likes her classics. I particularly enjoy darker works of fiction when it comes to classics, such as Wuthering Heights, Tess of the D'Urbervilles, and Jane Eyre. And this one I've heard fits kind of into that category. Now, I have seen the film adaptation starring Rupert Graves way back in the day, but I don't remember a lot about the story, so I'm hoping that reading the book is going to be very interesting for me. For those who are not familiar, The Tenant at Wildfell Hall is about a woman who appears in this English village or city or society, if you will, and she has a very mysterious air about her. People don't know where she came from, they don't know who she is or who she was, and so a lot of rumors start to happen about who she is, and she's trying to navigate society while also balancing all of these prejudices about her. I remember really enjoying the film adaptation, so I think I'm going to enjoy The Tenant at Wildfell Hall by Anne Bronte. Now, I must warn you, dear viewer, I feel a little bit of a reading slump coming on. I do. And on top of that, I am definitely a mood reader. So I could get to all of these or I could get to absolutely none of these. All I know is that May is going to be a reading adventure one way or the other. And that's all I have for today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. That was my computer. I've mentioned previously I was really in the mood to and the final book that I hope to read in May of 2021. What is it? Oh, I forgot, and my notes like right there. Oops. Brain bubble. So overall, April was a very good reading month, and now we're going to dive into the movies? No, it's not movies, Jane. We're not talking about movies, Jane. Oh, goodness. You know you're gonna get a cold and you get that slight like tickle in your throat and you think, oh, I'm getting sick. I can feel it coming on. I'm having the reading slump tickle right now. That doesn't sound right, but we're going with it, Jane.